The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters, the second of Tuesday, episode 185, here on NOK Network, the video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario, for the awesome intro track, originally recorded by the Moody Blues, with some customized changes for our show. So stop hitting me with fucking sound fucking copyright shit. Oh, all right, my bad. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Tara Simpson, along with the one and only Bufo Alvarius, who has chosen all of our stories for us. Hello, Tara.
Hello, hobbies, and hello, everyone. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He's our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while that sounds like great fun, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick that toad.
Don't lick the toad. Hey, so interesting thing. So Bufos was telling me that he almost stuck in this long article that was saying so many people were licking toads and picking psychedelic plants and species and mushrooms, and they're afraid all the psychedelics are going to disappear now. So people should not take psychedelics.
Yeah, so that is becoming an issue in some areas where people are, not harvesting sustainbufo, and it's affecting the native species in those areas of plants and obviously bufo toads. But even things like peyote and some of these other psychedelic cactuses are being affected because people are going into the desert and, taking it for profit. And of course, these things take time to regenerate. Right. So again, make sure you're sourcing your psychedelics sustainably.
Our first article comes out of Signpost, and I agree, my bad. And scientists pinpoint cellular mechanism behind psilocybin's effect on brain activity. And this is written by Eric Dolan. I'm going to sit down someday and puff with this guy.
Right? Pick his brain a little bit. A new study provides a detailed look at how psychedelic compound psilocin acts on specific neurons within the brain. The research suggests that psilocin directly excites a particular population of brain cells in the medial prefrontal cortex, a region associated with cognition and mood, by activating a specific receptor and its internal signaling pathways. The findings were published in the Molecular Psychiatry. Scientists are exploring psychedelic compounds for their potential to treat neuropsychiatric conditions like depression and anxiety. Psilocybin, which the body converts to psilocin, has shown promise in clinical settings. It's understood that these compounds primarily interact with a type of serotonin receptor known as the 5-HT2A receptor. While brain imaging in humans has shown that psychedelics increase activity in the prefrontal cortex, the precise cellular mechanism behind this effect have remained largely unclear. The research of this study sought to identify which specific neurons are affected by psilocin in the brain region and to map the exact molecular chain of events that leads to changes in their activity. Psychedelic compounds are currently being investigated for therapeutic application in a number of psychiatric diseases. Despite promising clinical trials, the underlying mechanism of these drugs are not yet completely understood in preclinical research, like our study. Can shed light on the underlying neurobiological effects of these compounds, including psilocybin, said study author Melissa Herman, an associate professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. This research was conducted with an MD, PhD student in lab, Dr. Gavin Schmidt, and in collaboration with my colleague, Dr. Brian Roth, who generated the transgenic mice used in the study. To investigate brain-wide effects, the research team first used functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, on mice. This technique measures changes in blood flow to infer brain activity. Anesthetized mice were administered a neurovehicle solution of psilocin at a dose of 2 milligrams per kilogram. The fMRI scans revealed that psilocin led to a significant increase in activity in the medial prefrontal cortex, particularly within two subregions known as the prelimbic and anterior cingulate cortices. Interesting.
Following the brain-wide imaging, the scientists performed experiments on brain slices from the mice to examine the activity of individual neurons using the technique called electrophysiology. Let's try that again. Using a technique called electrophysiology, which measures the electrical signals of cells, they first recorded from a general population of neurons called layer B pyramidal cells in the prefrontal cortex. When psilocin was applied, the response was varied. About half of the neurons increased their firing rate, while 30% decreased their firing, and the rest showed no charge. This mixed result suggested that psilocin has different effects on different types of neurons in this area. I'm curious if it was like a male, female, like what separated that.
Right. Yeah.
I was initially surprised that psilocin produced variable effects in non-specified prefrontal cortex neurons, increases, decreases, or no change in activity, but consistently activated 5-H2A neurons. But then we realized this is likely an essential key to these drugs engaged in the prefrontal cortex, or typos. To narrow their focus, the researchers used a genetically engineered mouse model in which neurons expressing the 5-H2A receptor was labeled with fluorescent marker. This allowed them to specifically identify record from the cells that are primary target of the psychedelics. When psilocin was applied directly to these identified 5H2A neurons, the effect was consistently and clear. The firing rate of these neurons' reliability increased approximately doubling to the 200% of the baseline activity psilocin was these neurons intrinsically for more excitable, meaning it took less on an electrical stimulus to cause them to fire in action potential. The researchers then explored whether this increased activity was a direct effect on 5H2A neurons or an indirect effect caused by changes in the surrounding neural network. They measured the small spontaneous electrical contents that neurons receive from the neighbors, which represent incoming excitatory or inhibitory signals. Psilocin did not alter the frequency or amplitude of these incoming signals, providing evidence that the drug acts directly on the 5H2A neurons to increase their excitability. Rather, they altering the signals they receive from other cells. To confirm that the 5H2A receptor was responsible of these effects, the team conducted a series of pharmacological experiments. They applied a compound called NBOH2CNCN200NM, which selectively activates on the 5H2A receptor. This compound replicated the effects of psilocin, increasing the firing rate of the 5H2 neurons. Interesting. Tell us what happens next, Tara.
Next, they used a drug called M100907, 200 NM, which blocks the 5H2A receptor. When this blocker was applied before psilocin, the excitatory effect was completely prevented. These experiments together point to the 5-HT2A receptor as a key mediator of psilocin's effects on these specific neurons. The team also tested the involvement of the related receptor, the 5-HT2C receptor, which psilocin also can affect, using a blocker for the 5-HT2C receptor did not prevent psilocin from increasing neuron firing, suggesting this receptor is not involved in the direct excitatory action. The study also tested a novel non-hallucinogenic compound that activates the 5-HT2A receptor. This compound also increases the firing of neurons in a similar manner, suggesting that this mechanism of exciting neurons might be related to the therapeutic potential of these drugs, possibly separate from their hallucinogenic effects. Finally, scientists investigated the internal signaling pathway of the 5-HT2A receptor uses to change the cell activity. When a receptor on a cell's surface is activated, it triggers a cascade of events inside the cell. The 5-HT2A receptor is known to signal through a pathway involving a protein called GAQ. The researchers used an inhibitor called FR900359-1UM that specifically blocks GAQ signaling. When the inhibitor was present, both psilocin and the selective 5-HT2A activator failed to increase the firing of neurons. This result indicated that the GAQ pathway is a necessary step in the chain of events linking the 5-HT2A receptor activation to increased neuronal excitability. Oh my God, that was a tongue twister.
Psilocin, the active metabolite found in psilocybin, increases activity in the prefrontal cortex by acting at a specific population of neurons that contain the 5-AHTA 2A THT2A receptor, Herman said. The prefrontal cortex and the 5-H2A receptor are important to cognitive function, and both are implicated in psychiatric disorders. So the effects we see could be related to how these drugs may improve symptoms in human implants. Or human patients implants. The study has some limitations. The experiments were conducted in mice, and while animal models provide power, see right here, this I think is the reason why I don't like the animal studies. While the experiments were conducted, and while animal models provide powerful insights into biological mechanisms, the results do not always translate directly to humans. The sample size for the fMRI portion of the study was also relatively small. Future research could aim to confirm these findings in large animal cohorts and investigate how these cellular changes in prefrontal cortex relate to the behavioral and therapeutic effects of psychedelics. The long-term goal are understand how psychedelic compounds can change activity and processing across the brain. How these changes are the same in males or females or different, and how these changes are impacted pre-existing conditions like stress or exposure to conditions that produce symptoms related to human psychiatric disease, Herman explained. These findings contributed a more detailed picture of psychedelic compound like psilocin works at the cellular or molecular level by showing that psilocin directly excites a specific group of neurons in the prefrontal cortex through the 5-HT2AC receptor and the GAQ pathway. This works helps to uncover the neurobiological mechanisms that can be involved in the compound potential therapeutic actions. Although psychedelics show significant promise for potential therapeutic use, some of the human data may be complicated by placebo effects. I love you! Or efficacy bias, or these drugs are exceedingly unlikely to cure everything or be effective in all individuals, and therapeutic use must be supported by rigorous research, Herman cautioned. The study psychedelic compounds directly excite 5-2H2A layer V medical prefrontal cortex neurons through 5-HT2A GQ activation was authored by Gavin P. Schmitz, Ying Ding Ju, Maya Lal Fungelson, and Reggie Martin McKinnon, Gabrielle M. Koenig, E.B. Costines, Li Ming Hesu, Yang Yui, Brian L. Roth, and Melissa Herman. That was a really good article.
Interesting. But again, I agree with you. Like, okay, so you're doing this on mice, but again, mice are not humans.
Not at all.
And I'm sure there would be no shortage of human volunteers to try this, right? Just to get those results, to see and bring awareness. But of course, we're not allowed to do that. Now they're going to maybe try it on larger animals. Again, they're animals, they're not human.
No, the heartbeat's different. The vibrance is different. Everything is different. The molecules, the brainwave, like everything
cells,
is
everything,
different.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
there's humans have so many different breakup of genes compared to an animal that is more similar, and by numbers.
right. Like, yeah. And again, I don't like people experimenting on animals. I just
Right. They don't get to have a choice to say, "Hey, I want that $1,000 to help you study."
yeah, exactly. Because again, we don't know if they're suffering in any way while this is all, like depending on what they're being experimented on for. I just really don't think it's a good idea.
So we have another article on brainwaves. However, this one comes from neuroscience news, .com. And I'm glad Bluefoes put this in there because it shows that they're actually like doing more than just like medical research, but they're looking at all of it, man, and psychedelic ego death tied to a collapse in alpha brain waves. And summary, a new study using DMT as a scientific tool reveals how psychedelics alter the brain's alpha wave dynamics and weaken our sense of self. The researchers found that DMT pushes the brain away from its critical balance between chaos and order, state believed to be essential for a coherent self-awareness over time. This shift appears as pronounced dampening of alpha waves corresponding to stronger subjective experiences of ego dissolution. The findings suggest psychedelics may be uniquely suited to probing the neural foundations of consciousness and selfhood. Key facts is the alpha wave disruption DMT significantly suppresses alpha activity, correlating with reports of ego dissolution. Critically shift, the drug moves the brain from its normal balance between chaos and order and weakening the continuity of self-related thought. Tool for consciousness research, the study supports using the psychedelics to examine how the brain constructs self-awareness. And the source is SFN.
Yeah, so this is an interesting article. When people use a psychedelic called diethyltryptamine, DMT, they experience a temporary loss of their sense of self. DMT interacts with a frequency of brain activity associated with self-referential processes, alpha waves, but it's unclear how this activity relates to self-awareness. Christopher Timmerman at University College London and Marco Aquil, currently at University of Miami, are among researchers who use DMT as a tool to explore the relationship between alpha waves and self-awareness. As reported in the Journal of Neuroscience paper, the researchers discovered that DMT interacts with alpha waves in a way that is associated with stronger ratings of loss of sense of self, sometimes termed death. These activity changes were related to what is termed criticality. Elaborates Timmerman, the way the brain operates between chaos and order allows for normal brain function. Criticality refers to a brain state balance between chaos and order that helps us predict things about the environment, the way we change or adapt to it, and our self-awareness. Furthermore, the researchers found that this shift away from criticality was a dampening or quieting of alpha waves. Describing what this might mean, says Aquil, we rely on past narratives and future predictions to have a coherent sense of self. In a DMT experience, people do not have a stream of consciousness over a period of time. Everything takes place in the present moment. This shift in criticality signatures in the alpha frequency during a DMT experience likely reveals how the time extended component of the sense of self is weakened. Before Timmerman and Aquil emphasize their work supports the idea that psychedelics may be a powerful tool for unraveling the neurobiological basis of human consciousness. COI statement. One author is the shareholder of Aspect Neuroprofiles BV, which develops fuck my life.
Oh, wait, where were we? I might be able to help you with the word.
We're at one author.
Oh, which one are you? What's the word you're saying? The
Physiology. Physiology. See, now it comes out. Physiology, informed prognostic measurement for neurodevelopmental disorders. All other authors declare no competing financial interests. Key questions. How does
can I ask the questions and you answer them?
Sure.
All right. It'll help us puppets on our questioning skills. So, how does DMT affect the brain's alpha wave activity linked to self-awareness?
DMT suppresses alpha waves and shifts the brain away from its normal critical balance, correlating with stronger experiences of ego dissolution.
What is criticality, and why is it important for understanding the self?
So criticality is a neural state between order and chaos that supports prediction, adaptation, and the continuity of self-related thought.
Why is DMT useful for studying consciousness?
Because it rapidly alters self-referential processing, allowing researchers to observe how disrupting alpha wave dynamics affects self-awareness.
The editorial notes. This article was edited by a neuroscience news editor, journal paper reviewed in full, and this is about pharmacology and consciousness research news. The SFN media, SFN, the image is credited in there. I think this is just like down. Yeah. So I want to read that now. DMT introduced shifts and critically correlate with self-dissolution.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
It is. So when people take these hero doses, that's what they talk about, is like battling the self and like coming on, healing those wounds.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And so that's it was neat for that article to be there, because we've been talking to a space psychonaut, very great mycology. His fruit is delicious, and he says one of these days us, you puppets and us, are gonna just like take a nice like hero dose journey, because I told him I never really like ate a whole crap load and just like, you know, was allowed to walk off into the world.
Yeah. I've done some hero doses. Not going to lie. I've had a few experiences.
But you also use them for medication. And
in microdosing.
Yeah. And now it's medication time.
That's right, folks. It's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we'll return with more articles Beautiful has chosen making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Psychedelic Reporters on NLK Network.
hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyndinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set. One dab, only really need one dab. One dab.
Smoke Signal is a medical dispensary where you can get all your products and needs.
Start vaping a whole bunch. Might just start laying up the blunts. God. Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram. Go and hold it in, feel it in your ribs.
So come and check us out in Tyndinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyndinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Now we get back to the show.
And we're back from our medication session live here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
I'm still medicated. Hold on. I can't find my lines. Holy shit. And we have another kick-ass show for the rest of... Oh, wait. Here it is. Thank you for joining us. Wait. And we have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. Okay, there we go. I even sat in here so I wouldn't fuck up and miss the time. Our next story comes from marijuanamoment.net, and it has DEA moves to boost production of psychedelics to explore therapeutic potential for PTSD and depression. And this is written by Kyle Yeager.
Yeah, the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration, is proposing to raise the quota for legal production of multiple psychedelics, including psilocybin, 5-MeO-DMT, and methadone for research purposes in 2026. In a notice published in the Federal Registry on Friday, DEA said it's moving to boost the quotas for the psychedelic substances so researchers can study whether they could serve as a potential treatment of conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. The proposed production goal for psilocybin rose from 30,000 grams this year to 40,000 grams in 2026.
Yeah, that's a typo.
Okay, that messed with my brain for a second there. While the psilocin quota increased from 36,000 grams to 48,000 grams. The DEA also evidently sees ample potential for research into lesser known psychedelics as well. For example, it's proposing to nearly triple the quota for 5-MeO-DMT from 11,000 grams this year to 30,000 grams in 2026. That's a huge increase.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad too, because they're doing more studies.
Right. Yeah, that's a big increase, especially being that DMT takes very, very little to produce an effect. So that's going to serve a shit ton of patients, just saying. Just 4 years ago in 2021, the agency only called for 35 grams of the psychedelic. That grew to 2,550 grams in 2022 and 11,000 grams the next year, where it stayed until this latest proposal. And for methadone, an MDMA-like compound, the increase is even more dramatic.
This is awesome.
Yeah. In 2025, the agency set a goal of 5,200 grams. But in 2026, it wants 30,000 grams produced. Wow. Holy shit.
So that's That was MDMA. They're doing all these. The Department of Veteran Affairs, like they're
Right.
doing all these studies now, so they need it.
Yeah, that's amazing. How it's increased that much for next year.
Like 5-MeO DMT. See, this is number I really like. So the production goal for methadone for minuscule 4 years ago when DEA proposed manufacturing was 40 grams of the substance. The same quota set in 2022 before increasing to 5,200 grams for each subsequent year until the latest proposal. So for 3 years, it's been jumping 5,200. So they're at 15,200 then?
Yeah, I guess so.
Whoa, over recent years, DAA has generally ramped up production goals for marijuana and entertain certain psychedelic as interest in the therapeutic potential has grown within the public and scientific community. The proposed 2026 quotas for cannabis, THC, ibogaine, MDMA, LSD, and mescaline were not adjusted since last year. However, these proposed 2026 quotas reflect the quantities that DAA believes are necessary to meet the estimated medical, scientific, research, and industrial needs of the United States, lawful export requirements, and the establishment and maintenance of reserve stocks, DEA said. I want to work at one of these buildings or own one.
Right? Hilarious. The agency said that in setting the quotas, it looked into several factors, including projected demands for such class as indicated by procurement quotas, information obtained by federal health agencies such as the Food and Drug Administration, and other factors affecting medical, scientific, research, and industrial needs in the United States, and lawful export requirements. The Controlled Substances Act requires the Attorney General to set up APQs for Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 drugs each year. Notably, mean marijuana would not be a part of this annual research production list if Donald Trump follows through on a campaign pledge to move cannabis from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 of the CSA. DEA said in a notice last month, however, that rescheduling process remains stalled despite the head of the agency's prior commitment to senators that he would prioritize the issue if confirmed for the role. Also earlier this month, a lawyer for DEA faced a grilling by a federal appeals court over delays in the request for a religious group to use the psychedelic drug ayahuasca in their practice, a complaint similar to the one the marijuana reforms advocate had vented over decades amid repeat efforts and federal cannabis prohibition.
That's it.
Yeah, those numbers were absolutely crazy. The increase in research material. I really want to know who they're researching on now.
See now, okay. So see, but they made sense. So as we were reading that, I was getting reminded of, okay, well, that college just put out the DMT study, so that made sense. That college just put out, the vets were going to do the MDMA, so that made sense. So the numbers started making sense because of the articles we have read all this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's a few more they could throw in there. I'm surprised they're not using like iboga, some ayahuasca in that mix, or there's other things they could be researching as well, but at least they are focusing on those three for now, and in very large quantities, so that's super cool.
See, now I'm curious because a lot of these schools, the vets, all these things are conducting the studies, growing the shrooms, doing all this stuff. So what exactly is the DEA doing except for just putting their name on it and overseeing it because it's a drug? You know, like, because obviously they're not doing it.
No, their job is just to enforce policy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. Yeah, they're just, you know, there to make sure that the laws are being upheld and stuff like that. They don't really do anything research wise, I don't think. I think that falls to all the universities and medical schools.
So speaking of all the in the cities, states, and whatnot, our next article comes out of Axios.com, and Boulder opens 3 psilocybin healing centers. And this is written by Mitchell Byers.
Which article are we reading here?
That Boulder one? Did I skip it?
I think you pulled up.
Oh, we were supposed to read the adult thing. Oh, my bad. That is not our article. This next article, my bad. Let's go back to Dallas. Okay.
There we go.
All right. DallasExpress.com. Okay, that's what it was. My tabs were all messed up. Dallas Express, the People's Paper. Survey, approximately 12 million U.S. adults using psychedelic in the past year, many reporting mental health benefits. And this is written by Dallas Express, Health and Science, December 1st.
Yeah, a comprehensive study has shed light on the growing use of psychedelics among American adults, with 4.5%, or about 12 million people aged 18 and older, reporting use in the past 12 months. The national survey investigating hallucinogenic trends, conducted by Rocky Mountain Poison and Drug Safety, marks the largest ongoing study of its kind, drawing from 57,309 completed surveys, including 4,329 recent users. This data, released this year and detailed in the 2024 NSIHT data report, highlights how these substances are increasingly viewed as tools for personal well-being beyond recreation. Some of the notable findings are below. Psilocybin, found in magic mushrooms, emerged as the most popular psychedelic, used by 2.1% of the adults, so 5.5 million people, followed by MDMA at 1.5%, or 3.8 million people, and prescription ketamine, or esketamine, at 1.2%, or 3.2 million. Wow. That's pretty interesting that they're, you know, viewing it kind of the same as like the cannabis thing, right? Where they're now viewing it as a medical thing, right? I don't just want to get fucked up. I want to actually get better. So that's kind of cool that it's beyond recreation at this point for a lot of people.
Right. I mean, even look at the next paragraph. It says, while fun and enjoyment topped the reasons for use at 68.2%, 26.8% significantly cited treating medical symptoms, including mental and physical health issues. Notably, 46.7% of psilocybin users and 57.2% of ketamine users agreed or strongly agreed that the substance improved their mental health. Personal growth and spiritual reasons also ranked high, painting a picture of psychedelics as multifaceted aids in an era of rising mental health concerns. Demographics reveal stark patterns use is the highest among younger adults, with 7.9% of those aged 18 to 25 and 7.0 of 26-49 reporting past year's use, dropping to just 1.4 for those 50 and older. Wow.
Yeah. Looks like men at 5.9% outpaced women at 3.2%. And the prevalence varies geographically, peaking in the Pacific regions at 6.4%. While experiences occur in private settings with friends and family, 69.1%, often combined with cannabis, 37.9%, or with alcohol, 28.8%. These findings align with broader trends from the 2024 National Survey on Drug Use and Health by the Substances Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which reported 3.6% past year hallucinogen use among those 12 and older, up from 2.7% in 2021. The NSDUH detailed in its annual report notes steady increases among adults 26 and older, from 2.1% to 3.4% over the same period. That, though it doesn't delve into specific mental health motivations. Experts see this as part of a psychedelic renaissance driven by the promising clinical trials for conditions like depression and PTSD. However, the NSIHT warns of risks of unsupervised use, with 22.8% of users initiating in the past year alone. As states like Oregon and Colorado expand regulated access, these surveys underscore the need for education and safety guidelines. With millions turning to psychedelics, the data suggests a cultural shift, one that balances potential benefits with calls for caution.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. And that's like right over here, like our politicians are already talking because shit being done in Texas right now with their all their private funding.
But it's interesting to see, like, when Ron and I were live last night, we had an article that was similar where they were looking at the youth and their cannabis choices and why they're using, and they're finding that these new young people, Gen Zs, are not going to their dispensaries looking to get absolutely blasted off their face. They're going there because they want something that's going to help them study or something that's going to help them sleep. So again, they're making smart choices about health conscious substances, right? That also, of course, help them relax and all those other fun things. But they're making more medically related choices about their selections than they are about just having fun and getting screwed up, right? And we're seeing that with the psychedelic stuff as well. People aren't doing them to get absolutely blasted on Saturday night. They're doing them because, hey, that just helped my depression and I feel a lot better. What's that all about, right? So it's cool.
Yes, it's so cool that our last article of the evening, Axios.com, Boulder opens 3 psilocybin healing centers, and this is written by Mitchell Byers.
Yeah, so Boulder has at least 3 psilocybin healing centers as Colorado begins licensing its first psychedelic therapy programs. Why it matters, how Boulder and Colorado as a state navigates psychedelic therapy licensing could serve as a national model for a fledgling practice. State of play. According to a report by Boulder Reporting Lab, the city of Boulder has at least 3 licensed psilocybin healing centers: Happy Rebel Healing, Chariot Psilocybin Healing Center, and Psychedelic Growth. Boulder City Council approved rules in January allowing businesses to establish healing centers where psilocybin can be consumed legally in supervised settings. There's no surprise, Boulder has already has several facilities. Naropa University was a trailblazer in the field and at one point had a center for psychedelic studies and an undergraduate minor in psychedelics. Context: Coloradians voted to legalize regulated access to psilocybin in 2022, and license applications for healing centers and facilities opened last December. The federal government has warned in recent years of the idea of using psychedelic drugs for medical treatment.
Yes, but psilocybin remains a Schedule 1 drug federally, doing business with banks and other financial institutions. Chickadee lickety. The Denver Post reported last year that the Colorado business were wary of reports out of Oregon, the only other state that allow psychedelic therapy, that costs have been prohibitive. Those expenses are reflected in prices for Boulder customers. Happy Rebel Healing charges about $2,800 for a session. Chariot charges $1,500 and $3,000. And Psychedelic Growth charges $3,400 for its psilocybin sessions. I better fucking walk home with a pound if I'm paying that.
Right. Well, you can get a pound here for less than that.
Threat level. Happy Rebel Healing told Boulder Reporting Lab that none of its patients have had negative incidents. Oregon logged fewer than 20 adverse reactions out of more than 3,000 sessions it studied this year. What they're saying, it feels guaranteed that when you start a new business, there's going to be a learning curve. Teresa Crossland, the psychotherapist and co-owner of Happy Rebel Healing, told Boulder Reporting Lab, "You're going to make mistakes. How could you not? Not this business. The stakes feel a little high. You don't want to make mistakes that are going to harm a person or harm the movement." Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Was that it?
That was it.
Oh,
short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
So very cool that those centers are opening. I'd like to see the cost come down. I mean, that's a little bit much in my opinion. But again, I don't know what it costs them to run a facility like that and pay their staff and their insurance and taxes, and there's overhead.
And acupuncture used to not be covered by insurance, and now it's covered by some insurance companies. So, who's to say down the road, mental health, some of these patented psychedelic experiences would then be covered under an insurance as well. I mean, it is America. They are going to, big company the shit.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe one day we will see insurance companies cover it. I mean, they're paying out millions of dollars on other drugs that aren't working for these people. So, if they pay a little bit for a treatment and it works and the patient doesn't need any further treatment or very little treatment, it could be a win-win for the insurance companies too.
Well, yes. So all the scientists and everybody still and that's why I like these psilocybin scientists, because they're already concerned with the patient. So as long as all that stays and the patient stays the main focus of a quality med, then So thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reported on NOK Network, and for tuning in to our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media sites.
That's right, folks. We hope you've enjoyed your update today of mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medical advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to Kim Cooper, who was sitting in the back laughing, crying, smoking dabs, and helping us present this show. Many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint host, this lovely lady, Tara Simpson, and Bufo Ovarius for choosing the stories, and to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Dead Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way out.
Looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty